Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Jeffery, and I'm the Head of Employer Services here at Fincia. Over the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to run you through the professional banking fundamentals, provide a bit of information on how it can help you supercharge your career in banking. For those of you who don't know much about Fincia, essentially we are a not-for-profit professional membership organisation, and we've been around since 1886. Our goal is to improve competency, conduct, and manage risk through education, ongoing professional development, and professional community engagement. So a little bit more about who Fincia is. In 1886, the Australian Institute of Banking and Finance was formed. This was during a time of great stress within the Australian banking financial services sector. Essentially, during the gold rush, a lot of dodgy banks were cropping up, and they were taking people's money, and they weren't there when these miners came to get their money back out of the bank. A group of professionals recognized that if one bank was behaving badly, this would have an adverse effect on all the good banks too. So in 1886, the AIBF was formed to share knowledge and sound banking practice. Many years later, in 1966, the Securities Institute of Australia was formed. As the markets became more complex, the stock market opened, and people were building wealth through other means than just housing, property. The Securities Institute of Australia ensured that those who were working in that sector were professional. These two bodies merged in 2005 to create Fincia, the organisation that you're all familiar with now. And in 2018, Fincia started offering professional qualifications in banking in conjunction with the Chartered Banker Institute from the UK. Fincia originates in Australia, but it's known globally. There are around 10,000 members operating in 67 different countries around the world. Of course, the majority of those are in Australia, New Zealand, and Asia, but all of the major banking sectors have a number of Fincia members working there. I'm talking London, Frankfurt, Zurich, Switzerland, etc. So there's a lot of senior individuals who are Fincia members, and that does include the big bank CEOs, those household names whom you know, such as Matt Comyn, etc. Whilst I'm going to talk to you specifically about the Fincia professional banking fundamentals, I just want to give you a quick overview of how those qualifications fit into the different professional qualifications that Fincia offers in banking. You can see here through this simple diagram that the professional banking fundamentals is one module, and it's designed to round off knowledge for people who are working in banking, perhaps those who are new to banking. If you've been in the industry for a little while, you may want to continue on to the certified professional banker. And for those of you who are looking to genuinely develop your career, you might look at the chartered banker. Just for a term of reference, the chartered banker is something of a postgraduate style qualification. The professional banking fundamentals sits a little bit below that. The qualifications that might fit the role that you're doing, well, again, here's a little matrix to provide a bit of context. If you've got 10 years plus experience, you may wish to do the Chartered Banker by Experience. And this is really for those C-level, board level individuals and those who aspire to those levels, EGMs, general managers, etc. For those of you who are looking to study up to that level, you've got the Chartered Banker. And then, as I mentioned, the certified professional banker, but you can see the first step on the first rung on that ladder is the professional banking fundamentals. And this is for people who are starting in banking somewhere between 0 and 5 years in the industry, graduates, those working in banking support roles, retail banking, call center, etc. So if you're one of the individuals in that particular group, this is the webinar for you. So the big question then is, why become qualified? A lot of people go through their banking career and don't take on professional qualifications in Australia, but that's not the same for Asia, for Europe and the UK and the United States. Increasingly, there is community expectation, and the regulators have been signaling that professional qualifications are important even for people who are working in banks. Ironically, the person who pours your coffee, the barista with whom you're working, sometimes has more or higher levels of training than the person who's selling a mortgage. And of course, that's caused issues around trust. It's caused issues around community expectation and customer outcomes. Professionalism in banking is designed to really fix those challenges and fill those gaps. People who have professional qualifications are proud of what they do. They have specific networks that provides them support. And what's important is they hold themselves accountable to a higher level than simply the regulator or the organization for which they work. They have professional pride. They feel that they've got a fiduciary responsibility, a responsibility to do the right thing by their customers. Of course, that leads to sustainable and long-term outcomes, which are better for the organization they're working for, better for their customers, better for society as a whole, and in the long run, better for them. If you become qualified, you'll be able to signal to demonstrate that qualification to your peers, your employer, as well as your customers. And we give people who have passed the Professional Banking Fundamentals qualification a post-nominal, so something that you can use after your name. And that's a GFIN to signify Graduate of FINSIA. Most importantly of all, not only do the qualifications represent your ability or your intent to develop your capability and your understanding of the bigger issues in banking, but also it demonstrates that you are holding yourself accountable, that you've got a real commitment towards ethics and conduct in your role. Again, these are extremely important aspects which customers are looking for, but equally employers and the regulators are looking for. Some of you may have come here after seeing the large intake of professional banking fundamentals graduates that came through NAB. Indeed, National Australia Bank have demanded that all of their staff undertake the professional banking fundamentals to give them a rounded understanding of the why of banking, not just the what it is that we do, but also why do we do these things? Why is there regulation? Why is it important to service customers in the right way? And you can see this quote from Ross McEwen, the CEO of NAB. We want the very best bankers in Australia. That's how we'll serve our customers well. So what does the professional banking? Well, quite simply, it's available to start whenever you want. It is self-paced learning. It is delivered through various different mediums, as we say. It's a blended level of education. So there's a few videos in there. There's some online learning. There's a electronic textbook. And there's also everything is provided so you can listen to it. So if you're commuting on the bus one day and you want to do one of the chapters, pop in your headphones and you can learn about professionalism in banking. Whilst it is only one module, it's broken down into 7 different chapters. And I've listed these chapters out for you here. You can see that they all lead towards one outcome, and that's achieving your GFIN, the Professional Banking Fundamentals Graduate of FINSIA. The first chapter is really to explain the purpose of banking, why the industry of banking, how important it is to Australia. And you can see that the second chapter is all about high standards of ethical conduct. Of course, we've got that chapter in as early as possible. So you look through chapters 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 with a very strong ethical lens. So when you're looking at chapter 3, for example, the regulators and the legal requirements, you're considering it as an ethical or a professional an ethical professional. Same when we talk about the products and services, meeting customers' needs, all the way through down to risk management in banking. Now, I won't go through those in detail. They are available. They're available on request and they're available on our website. But you can see that undertaking the course will enable you to have a very rounded understanding of the fundamentals of banking. I should add, however, when we say fundamentals, that doesn't mean it's easy. This is still a professional qualification. You will be tested through a closed book exam that's delivered through a system of remote proctoring, it's called, whereby you essentially turn on your webcam and the webcam monitors you whilst you take your exam. The reason we do that is because the qualification itself has a certain level of integrity. It's recognized around the globe. In fact, it's recognized in the UK, I mentioned Europe, and parts of Asia as the minimum standard by which individuals should be before they can talk and serve customers. So you can see how important it is for people who are undertaking this exam to preserve the integrity of it. Equally, once you've completed the qualification, you can be very proud knowing that you've achieved something that's worthwhile. And that's very important because that will develop your understanding and your pride in the industry, and you're going to be more protective about you, your profession and your career, which in the long run benefits the industry. I pulled a few different quotes together from individuals who have done the professional banking fundamentals. I think it's very important that you hear from people who have got their hands dirty, if you like, and undertaken the qualification. Various individuals, all very positive, talk about grabbing it with both hands. But what I really like, and I haven't added those quotes to this particular sheet here, is people talking about how the qualification enabled them to deal with customers during the most recent pandemic, how it improved their ability to apply judgment when confronted with situations that were a little bit left of normal, things which you would not normally see in day-to-day being a frontline banker, or indeed working in a support or operations role. All of a sudden being challenged around the way that you've done business for a year or two, however long you've been in the industry. What was really compelling when I read some of those testimonials about how individuals really managed to better serve their customers during the pandemic. I think that gives you an idea as to the power of the qualification. Okay, I mentioned it's a very powerful qualification. Of course, the proof is in the pudding. And here's a list of some of the employers of PBF graduates. I mentioned NAB. I haven't spoken about judo bankers yet, but both National Australia Bank and Judo Bank demand that the individuals who undertake the qualification, who are working for those organisations, must be professionally qualified. So if you want to work at either of those two organisations, you have to take the exams. It's something that they require. I did a few others here, Microsoft and Deloitte. Organizations who serve the banking sector are increasingly finding it important to understand the purpose, the social purpose of banking, to understand their customers, and to really have a good conversation with peers and potential partners within the major banks. Equally, the Australian Banking Association is represented there. The ABA have also put all of their individuals through the professional banking qualification because they recognise how important it is that people understand the industry and the customers which we serve. Because at the end of the day, what all these organisations are really demonstrating is a commitment to their customers through a commitment to their people. And again, as a prospective PBF graduate yourselves, you might want to think about that. How can you stand out from the crowd? How can you really show that you are a worthy candidate for a new role, a promotion? Or how do you qualify and quantify the work that you've already done, the knowledge you've already got in a qualification which you can take? I talk about around the world, but perhaps it's just around Australia or around your capital city to one of these institutions. Of course, banks don't do it just for the sheer heck of it. Whilst they are driven by some, very strong social purpose, they also are driven by shareholder requirements and also driven by profit. And you can see here, this is a slide that we've spoken to the major banks with, the senior people in the banks, about how professionalism has benefited organizations, predominantly in the UK, where the massive data has been gathered. But you can see, again, that it's very important to answer some of the challenges that exist. Again, I won't read out each of these individual points, but I think the key takeaways are for organizations such as your big four banking firms is how do they reduce risk? How do they reduce that non-financial risk that potentially gets them in trouble, gets them in front of the politicians, gets them in front of newspapers and identified as doing the wrong thing? At the end of the day, the moment of brand truth, the moment of genuine interactivity with the customer happens 1,001 times, probably more, 1,000,000 times a day when their employees are talking to each other, external and internal stakeholders, as well as external and internal customers. So if each individual is holding themselves accountable to a higher standard, to a standard of professionalism, you're going to see improvements across those different areas. And you can see here improvements in net promoter scores, improvements in customers who customer relations, and improvements in people themselves feeling more pride for undertaking their roles. So I've spoken a bit about Fincia. I've spoken a little bit about the banks who support the qualifications and individuals who, the reasons why banks are supporting the qualifications. Well, I guess the question is, what's in it for you? Why do you want to do it? What's the benefit for you? Some people certainly will be altruistically motivated. You want to be the best banker or the best bank employee that you can possibly be. Others, perhaps, looking for to develop their skill sets so they become more employable, looking for a promotion, looking to stand out from the crowd in what's a very competitive market, and looking to demonstrate potentially to internal and external stakeholders that you are committed to the profession of banking. So there's a little bit, a few reasons as to why you might want to do it. Of course, there's more. Those of you who are undertaking the professional banking fundamentals with Fincia will also get Fincia membership. The reason why we include Fincia membership is because, as I mentioned, we're a not-for-profit, and our goal is to drive professionalism within the financial services industry for the benefit of all Australians. Fincia membership for 12 months really is aimed at supporting you through your career. And we do this through a number of different ways. Predominantly, it's through access to diversity of thought through our CPD. We give you the opportunity to learn more than just the area in which you're focused. We give you the opportunity to learn about superannuation, funds management, financial advice, the future of finance, blockchain, etc. And the idea of that is you'll be able to prepare your career for the future. This professional and ongoing learning builds a culture of constant learning. So understanding that as a professional, really we're on a journey. We want to be improving all the time rather than just thinking we've got a qualification and that's it. Professional qualifications aren't like a degree or a course. They're not training per se. Whilst it will lift your capability, it's more about going on a journey that you commit to constant learning. What I'd like to do then is I'd like to just flick across to the Fincia website and just show you a little bit about Fincia and the qualifications that are available. So I think you can see the Fincia website now. Once you've logged in, you can then access webinars. So here's just a couple that are coming up. You can see the future of finance, which is the future of financial advice. Future-proofing your career, so that might be relevant to those of you who are bear with me 1 second. Okay, so you should now be able to see the Fincia website. You can see those webinars that I was talking about. The future of finance, which is a webinar that's free for all our members. Future of finance, future-proofing your career. And as I just scroll down gently, I did mention blockchain. So there's a future of finance and blockchain, plus other upcoming events. Indeed, if you just look, we have a event coming up tomorrow, which one of my colleagues will be hosting, that talks about the PBF Chapter 2 in more detail. Now, this is to support people who are actually undertaking the qualification, and it rounds out their knowledge of what's contained within that chapter. So there's an idea of what's available to you. Equally, we have an entire part of the website which is dedicated to news. And this is news that is exclusive to Fincia. It talks about the submissions that we've made, and it also talks about some of the articles that we have available, which enable you to understand the industry better. So that's rounding out your knowledge as a professional. And we encourage you, as we encourage all our members, to make the most out of that facility. So just moving back. So we've spoken a little bit about what's in it for you. We've spoken a little bit about the membership and what's available. We've talked about how organizations are really focusing more and more on the purpose of banking, and they want to see individuals who are motivated for the right reasons. And at the end of the day, to avoid issues we've seen similar to the Royal Commission, similar to the trust deficit that exists within banking, what we're doing is we're working with those partner organizations to build a better standard of individuals, a better standard of banker, better standard of those who are working around the banking industry. And when I say around the banking industry, some of you on the webinar here might not be directly dealing with customers. As much as anything, the professional banking fundamentals could be relevant to you in building your awareness of how people within your organization are working towards assisting customers. I use the example of learning and development people, but this could equally be for those of you who aspire to a role in marketing or sales within banking. How can you possibly understand and better serve your future or your present organization if you don't know the context of what's being done? What I mean by the context is if your role is to market a particular credit card or mortgage or something similar, how can you possibly represent the value proposition in the best possible way if you don't understand aspects of those particular products? It would be impossible. So building your wider knowledge in banking, building your fundamental knowledge in banking is one key way to do that. So think about that. So what are the next steps? Well, the next steps, if you're keen, you can go along to fincia.com. You can go to the education tab, which you can just see there from this screenshot I've got. Click on professional banking fundamentals and enroll there and then on the spot. Alternatively, you can send an email to membership@fincia.com if you have additional questions, and one of my colleagues will be happy to respond to you and answer those questions. And there is a 1-800 number that you can give a buzz to that's there on our website. So there's lots of different ways for you to get in contact with us. You can see that the total program fee is $700. That gives you full access to the professional banking fundamentals. It gives you access to all aspects of it, essentially, your exam, but we do include in that 1 year's membership. So all of those webinars that we talked about, all of that different value add to ensure that you are not only getting a professional qualification, but you are career supported, you are building your diversity of thought, and you are developing a culture of constant learning, really to make you the most employable person when you go to that job interview, when you go for that promotion, or when indeed you're looking at signaling to customers, both internal customers and external customers, that you've committed to a career in banking. So on that note, I think we've covered off all of the content. I appreciate that we only had a short time together here, and I want to make sure that you all get back to your lunch. If you do have any questions, more than happy if you send them through to myself directly as well. My email is j.jeffery, Jeffery, @fincia.com, j.jeffery@fincia.com, and it'd be my pleasure to assist you with those questions. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and good luck with your qualification. We look forward to celebrating that GFIN with you and seeing it on your LinkedIn, along with the multitude of others who are now flying the GFIN flag. Thank you very much for your time.